الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So in the interest of time, we're going to get started because we have limited time, of course, until Salat al-Isha, unless you want to continue after Salat al-Isha. What do you think? Till Fajr? At Salat al-Isha, we're going to stop. But inshallah, that still gives us enough time to accomplish our goals for this evening. We have a relatively short agenda, as you'll see. We're going to start out by just giving an update on the financial situation of the masjid. And then we'll have an update on the reopening situation regarding COVID and where we are on COVID. And then the last is the portion that we think we'll probably spend most of the time on, which is to discuss an update in terms of where we are on the expansion project and some of the challenges that we're facing and looking towards the future in terms of where things will go. And we want to get input from the community as well. I don't know how many people we have online, but the number of people here is small, so there's plenty of chance for you to volunteer and speak up, so don't be shy. So with that said, I'm going to pass the microphone starting on my left, and we're going to go down the line to introduce to you the board members who are here with us tonight. Right, he'll come back. We'll introduce him when he comes back. So we'll start with Brother.
Assalamu alaikum. Omar Muhammad, been in the community for a few years now. Just joined the board through selection process, inshallah. I've been head of security for the past few years, serving the community. Inshallah, continue to work towards serving the community, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Samir Bazarbashi, born and raised in Columbus, so been here since 1980. I guess it's a privilege to be here to serve on the board. This is my first month, so yeah, that's me.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Rizwan. I'm in this community for past 5 years. I have been involved with the fundraising committee and education committee. This is my second year in the board. Inshallah, I'm very excited to be part of this.
Assalamu alaikum. I don't think I have introduced myself. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. I'm the board member of the board. Jazakumullah khair.
And I'm Rani Abaza, and I think you are sick of me because I've been on the board for too long. Alhamdulillah, I finished a term of 4 years, and then I was off for a year, and then I was invited back, so I'm back. And alhamdulillah, I'm the chairman of the board currently. And Brother Arif didn't introduce himself as the treasurer, but he's our treasurer, so he's one of our officers. And Dr. Rizwan is our compliance officer. And then I'm going to pass it. So when you introduce yourself, just introduce your position. Sister Lubna is next. She's our vice chair.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Lubna Atif Ibrahim. I've been with the board previously for 4 years. I finished my term, and now I'm finishing Sister Amina's term. So I'm back on the board, just like Ronnie said, and I'm currently serving on the board as the vice president. And I've been with the masjid for a long time, alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Nazak Habasha. This is my 4th year serving on the board, alhamdulillah, and my final year. So all of you know me. It's beautiful to be back in the masjid. I just want to say that. I had a baby during COVID, so I haven't been able to come back in the masjid because, with the baby. But it's like Sister Lubna said, it's, we're being back here on a Friday night, inshallah, is very auspicious. So we hope to be back many more Friday evenings with our families, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Asma Mubinuddin, and I'm starting a new term on the board. It's an honor to serve the community. I'm a pediatrician and a bioethicist at The Ohio State University and have been in the community for many decades. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us keep our intentions for His sake alone, and we're honored to serve Him and the community through our work here, inshallah.
So I'm going to ask Brother Atif to come forward and give us the financial situation to start us off. So do you want to plug your computer in, Brother Atif?
Take the mask out. Assalamu alaikum. I've just present here this as almost end of May, the statement. But the only thing I want to concentrate today is this meeting is about the expansion project. If you see there, the expansion project, the balance for that money available is $2,054,394. That's after we have to pay some of the expenses for architect. That was around what I found the other day. A complete search for it. We found that just only architect. There was some other expenses, but only architect expenses around close to $350,000. The actual expense for that one we found. But there's other expense, but I'm not going to that one. But this is what we spent, and now it's $2,054,000 in this amount left for the expansion project that we had decided to for a long time ago. And but this pandemic, we couldn't do any fundraising for it. The rest of them is other the other balance sheet for all the programs. And I don't think today is we discussing, but if you have some question, you can ask. But the main concentration today is we're talking about the expansion project, this meeting, inshallah. If anybody has question regarding that financial situation for Brother Ronnie, Dr. Ronnie, if you can.
Maybe you can just comment for us on just the overall financial health of the institution. I'm sure a lot of the community was worried that during COVID, obviously the masjid was closed for a long time. We didn't have the typical weekly contributions during Jum'ah. Our fundraising, we didn't have fundraising dinners because of COVID. So maybe you can just comment on how are we doing in terms of keeping up with operational expenses? Just,
inshallah.
The general idea.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, before what happened before the pandemic, our situation was getting slowly down because I don't know what was going on. The financial, our situation was not that really good. But during the pandemic, most of us we were thinking what will happen. But with help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and we thank our community who's really dedicated to support this masjid. If you look here, the balance sheet in the end, we have alhamdulillah $3.1 million. That include the expansion project. That means we have about 1.1 million in our hand. That includes some other schools and so on. In the bottom, actually, I can see that we go up here for operation. This is amount is before our Laylatul Qadr fundraising. We had it. This is $734,000, which was before was very like 100,000 before the pandemic. But this is mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't know what happened during the pandemic, but this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We help and the community help us. And this is balances. We are stable, very good stable, and I can say we'll be covered for almost a year, inshallah, our expenses. This is a good news, and we had some fundraising. We did not add it yet because it took time, but we added that one during the Laylatul Qadr. That will come around over $200,000 also, alhamdulillah. That means it's very good, inshallah. This is the best thing. But part of this, all of them did not come from the community. We got, I think the best thing when they set up the masjid financial, we started Brother Khalid, Brother Hani Sakhar before, they set it up the way it's professional business. It's not just something other masajid is doing. They put a payroll, which is process, IRS payment in all of them, completely like professional. And that help us when we come to like this situation, pandemic. What happened during the pandemic, the government offered, they call it PPP loan. They 2 times. And that is the only the organization was for the small organization. And this loan is forgiveness loan. If you provide a document that you paid this money, how much when they would send, and this money is forgiven complete 100%. And that's only was applied. So many massages couldn't get it because they were not on payroll. They were on, they call it 1099, and they will not accept that one. Masjid Abu Bakr couldn't do it. There are so many massages. Our masjid, alhamdulillah, everything on our imam and our all employee, which has here, in the masjid working was on the payroll. We were eligible on the first, which was in the month of April of 2020, or before that one, we are eligible to get about, they give us $94,000. I'm rounding up, $94,000. And that $94,000 came for us free. In the second round, they offer again, and we apply for that one. And alhamdulillah, we got about $86,000. This 86 plus 94, we're talking about $180,000 came money free for us. And we don't have to pay anything on it. And that's help also out of this all, beside that one community help, and that money also help us about $180,000 came free. And that's cover the main purpose of this loan was to cover the salaries, the employee salaries, the employee health care, and so all of them. And we provide that one, that's what was eligible, alhamdulillah. And right now, based on the bottom line, alhamdulillah, we are in very good stable, and very good. And this is from mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair.
Any questions for Brother Atif? And also for those who are watching virtually online, you can submit questions on the chat through YouTube or Facebook. And if we see questions coming through, we'll try to keep up with those and answer the questions as they're coming in. Go ahead, Dr. Iyad. The question was, just so everyone can hear, including the people online, when was the first fundraising done for expansion?
Oh. We started, I think, around 214, 200 something. The expansion first started when we went there. And after that, I'm guessing, around 2016. 2016, I was in 200. 2016, I start fundraising for it. but the project started before that. Because first was that, if you remember, the community was some shirts, fundraising shirt. It was some brothers. May Allah reward them. They are not here anymore. They were the board member. They did very good on that one. We started actually in 2014, but the actual fundraising to go outside, we started from after 2016, but not, that time started completely.
So at
But
least-
I should
at
not
least
say
5 years ago.
100%, but I can find it out. We can find out the exact date.
But at least 5 years ago, we can
Yes.
say at least 5 years ago.
How much money is
In the reserve.
in the reserve? Okay, let's I'll go back to this here. Okay, we have, if you look here, the first one is the $734,000, the total. That is, they call it 9012. We have 3 accounts. We have divided. One is operation account for the masjid, the expenses, the payrolls, all of that for the masjid. Okay, that is account is general donation coming, Juma during the Juma and all the time. Any donation come for the masjid operation. Okay, this money could go to this account and designated for this purpose, for the payroll and so on. The next account is, which is the expansion, I should say. The expansion is 7021. This is a specific separate account in the bank. But this is 100% restricted. They cannot be used for any purpose except for the expansion. For expansion, like architect we paid, or sometimes fees, like they apply for the city and so on and so on. There's nobody can touch this money because this is completely restricted, because this money belongs to people, the brothers and sisters who donated for this purpose. We cannot use this one for any other reason until we have to get permission from them. And the third account is, which is so many other restricted accounts, that's I call it the schools account, which is, there is the Saturday school, Sunday school, kids club, and also HIFS programs. There are some restricted, like cemetery, somebody donated long-term money is there. These are also restricted account, which is the money coming from tuition and so on, and the balance, this money is there for operation for the specific purpose or specific project. Sometimes this specific project is coming for a specific purpose, will be restricted, and for that purpose will be used, because what the intention of the people who want to give money for that purpose. For example, other one is on this included is zakat money, sadaqah fitr, and sadaqah money. This all restricted. That's for that purpose used it. This is 3 areas, which is the one is the main general operation, which is completely not restricted for the expense, and the 2 other ones restricted. But for the expansion, it's 100%. We cannot use it until we get permission from general body.
And I think another way to answer the question, besides just the numbers, is what you said earlier, which is that, alhamdulillah, we have enough in reserve for our operational expenses for about a year.
Yes.
So alhamdulillah, we're about a year ahead, so we have enough saved up for a year. So if we had no more donations for a year, we would still be able to pay the bills.
For the general operation of Majid, yes.
Alhamdulillah.
And the other reserve, as I should call it, if you call reserve, the one expansion, about over $2 million, that's there, is reserved.
Any other questions?
How much cost? Oh,
The total cost of the expansion project? Yeah,
Yes.
we're going to get to that. That's the third item on our agenda. So we're going to spend plenty of time talking about expansion. But this is just to present the financials. But we have time. We're going to get there, inshallah.
yeah, this on the, inshallah, it's coming, inshallah.
Anything else about financials for the treasurer? Okay, anything else on the chat coming through or emails? Okay. Okay, Jazakallahu khairan.
Jazakallah khair.
So we'll turn it over now to Brother Azhar. Brother Azhar is our executive director, our ED. I think you all know him, and he's going to just give us an update on where we are with the COVID situation and kind of how we're going about deciding to open things up and kind of the future, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Really quick, alhamdulillah, our masjid has been open for 5 daily prayers now, and we have also opened for the Jummah prayers. And also, we already had our weekend schools already open, the kids club also open. So we have a task force, and we meet every now and then to decide what programs to open and how to open up the masjid. So for example, when we started out, we had closed the masjid completely. Then in the next phase, we opened the masjid with 6 feet distances. But as we were, so in our task force, we have physicians, we have healthcare professionals also, the public health care professionals also in that. And obviously the masjid administration and our Imam Sahib also in that committee. So in the next phase, when the COVID has gone, the situation has gone better and people had started getting vaccinated, we went from 6 feet to 3 feet. And in the current stage where we are right now, we have no distancing, but masks are still required. So this is the stage where we are in right now. We had to stop janaza prayer, but alhamdulillah, the janaza prayer has also been open now. So people are coming for the janaza prayer. The other programs which entails food-related items, some graduation party or wedding events, kind of like an Azza also in that thing, because people bring food. So right now we have put a halt on that also still, because people have to remove masks while they're eating food, and it's for a long period of time. So I know that there's lots of requests for Azza, for renting the basement out for the food events, stuff like that. So we are still holding off to that, looking into the situation of the pandemic right now. Even though, alhamdulillah, a lot of people have been vaccinated in Hilliard, Dublin area, that's where the majority of our congregants are, but with the Delta variant coming in now, so the situation is a little bit difficult right now. But inshallah ta'ala, the task force will be meeting again to see what the situation is, and if the situation permits us, we will be starting opening up for the other events. However, the events we are happening in the masjid, they're all masks required, and then also to get the community involvement more so, we are having social events, youth programs are happening, but they're happening outside the masjid, in the masjid vicinity area. So that's the latest and greatest we have so far. Any questions or any concerns, please?
Any questions coming in on the chat, online, anything? Good, inshallah. Okay, then let's move forward then with the third item on our agenda, which is the bulk of the discussion for tonight, which is to talk about the expansion. And Sister Lubna, again, is our vice chairman. I think you all know her. She's been active in the masjid forever. Inshallah, has done a lot of work for the schools and has been on the a long time. So turn it over to her to give us an update on the expansion and give us some thoughts about what the board is considering now for future directions. And the purpose of this, by the way, is really to share with the community and just be transparent and open and welcome feedback so that we as a board know that as we're considering different options, that considering things that the community is comfortable with, or at least we're getting feedback to know what things to consider and what things we shouldn't be. So Sister Lubna will kind of share with us some of the background, where we are today, and then what we're thinking for the future, inshallah.
So a quick background about the expansion project. The original plan for the NICC building, when this was originally built, there was always a phase two. And phase two of the project was called, since the first days of NICC, was called known as the expansion project. The final plan was approved, we went through the licensing and all that, so we do have an approval now for a 22,000 square feet annex building that would include 15 classrooms, a school-like gym, and some admin offices. The original plan for the on-site expansion had part of it that the current basement of the building now would be renovated into like a family hall or community hall for large gatherings and conferences. And the lobby itself for the NICC would be also renovated as part of that project to include something like a modern cafe. So the estimated cost of the project in 2016 was around $6 million. The fundraising started, and we had like two big fundraisers. Exclusively, the donations were for the expansion project, and all the donations for expansion are kept in a restricted fund for expansion. We would not be able, as per the licensing and laws for the city, to start the actual digging and to start the actual project unless 40% of the total cost is in our restricted fund. So that's where we are. The new developments that have happened after that, and that's the main thing that we wanted to update the community about, is when COVID hit and the statewide lockdown, the closure of the masjid and all activities were shifted to virtual mode. So what we have is now some sort of donor fatigue and instability of the economic situation. So coupled with that is the huge increase in prices of building materials after the COVID. So with the reopening and the return of the activities, now slowly, our reopening plan, the board has decided to do a thorough review of the expansion project. When I say a thorough review what we mean as a board is that we are going to explore all options now. After all what happened with all this time that has elapsed. So the exploration will entail like all possible options for the expansion project. This include on-site, the original plant, which is the on-site that I just briefed you about, off-site, or placing the collected donations in an endowment for some time until the project starts. So all these options are being explored now by the board. The forward vision of the board is that what we wanted essentially to share with the community is that all these options are being studied by the board with equal enthusiasm. Like the board is not leaning towards any of the options more than the other currently. As soon as there is credible information and the board is leaning more because of all the information that will be collected towards one option rather than the other, then the community will be updated and the community approval and opinion will be sought at that time. So currently what we have are two parallel committees working at the same time on the following options. The Expansion Technical Committee, these are collecting quotations and current real estimates from 5 different contractors. Actually today we were planning on having some solid numbers because the 6 million, around 6 million estimate is no longer valid with the after COVID increase in building materials and prices. So we're waiting on 5 contractors to give us solid estimates of how much the project would actually cost us. At the same time, there is an off-site expansion committee who's working and collecting information on best ways to carry on this possibility, including different pricing options. And this includes brand new land or the renovation of an existing building. So also the committee will be looking into that. So both committees are working with the BOD to explore the option of an off-site expansion that takes place in phases. Like when we say in phases, like if it's like a building that's already existing, then maybe it will be phase 1 as part of the project, then phase 2, then phase 3. So all these options are just being studied and explored. The purpose of today's meeting is essentially just to be transparent as a board and for us to update the community on where we are now and just have your opinions and listen to your questions as we go forward. That concludes the presentation itself, and we are now open for all kinds of questions. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you so much, Sister Amina, for that. And this is the type of actually conversation that we need to have with everyone. And this is why, like, it's very important to know, not only for you and with everyone who is having those grievances on or those concerns, that the board, one of the reasons why we're here today is that we did not want to go further into the process and then update the community. This is, as I said, a transparency process whereas we are just showing that we're starting the conversation, and these points are very useful. And actually it would be what you said would make a very solid case for the on-site expansion, and at the same time we could have other members who would form a solid case for the off-site project. So that's what we need to consider on both sides, which and just try to discuss the pros and cons for each of the options before anything happens. And then at the end of the day, the donors, as you said, the donors who have actually donated and who are the first stakeholders in this whole thing would be approached, and of course there would be like a community survey at some point for either way that we would go. But this is very, very useful, I think, and to comment also, before I give the floor to the others to comment on this, when we said like the term donor fatigue, we don't really, maybe there are some negative connotations to it, but what I really meant by that is that when you see, you're right, that it's not for the public, it's not really something to be shown, but at the same time, when you see the figures and how much we actually have out of the total amount, this is where we need to do our calculations and come up actually with a strategy, whereas we will be able to at some point say that in this amount of time, in a year, we would be able to raise that much. So we should have a strategy in that regard, and that was the point. So
No, it's okay. I think it's very productive.
Sister Lubna, can I say
Sure.
something? So, they, okay, so I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate your forthcoming and honesty, like always. So first of all, we're all here to listen tonight, right? Like, nobody's here to like argue with anybody's points. We want to hear like any comments and any questions that we can answer, we will answer, right? But we're here to hear any feedback that anybody has. The only point that I will push back on a little bit out of complete disclosure, on our part, is that I personally disagree with the idea of going first to the large donors, because in this community, I would like to believe that anybody who could donate did donate to the degree that they could. And sure, but then I mean, we could do that, right? But then if I went to every person who donated $50, $5,000, $50,000, there would be an argument of, well, we're the top 5 donors, or we're the top 10 donors, or we're the big right? Like, we believe that this is a conversation that the community needs to have, not just donors need to have. And I understand that the latter is more strategic. Yes. Of course. No, don't be sorry. It's fine.
On the committees that are. There are some, like the technical committee. We have the technical committee and the offsite expansion committee.
No, I'm asking entrepreneurs, like the people who know the business, the people who know the outcome. They can forecast the outcome. Do we have these kind of people involved in the expansion committee?
We can, of course.
Do we have them right now?
Yes, we have some.
Okay.
We have some,
Can
but like a few, because I can tell you the members of the committee. That's not that's public information. I can tell you, and some of them are business.
How many people are in the expansion committee, by the way?
The technical committee has Brother Hamdi.
Is he a businessman?
Aqil. Yes.
Okay, and who's the next?
And then it has Brother Khalid Faraj.
He's a businessman?
Yes, and an engineer.
Okay.
And then Brother Aqil, who's an engineer too.
Okay.
And then the expansion technical committee. Yeah, this
mostly people with experiences in business and they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So now we are talking about offsite project, right? So that means we made a wrong decision, going for an on-site project. That means that shows us that we made a wrong decision. So we can still fix it, and going to the right direction. And I think she's right. It is getting really emotional. I came up with a proposal today that I had a proposal, I gave it to the brother. I said, maybe that might help. So there's a land here, like almost 3.8 miles away. It's a 98 acres land selling for $5.4 million. If we can invest, I can bring people with $2.5 million, they can invest with Noor and buy that land. Maybe within 5 years, the land maybe $20 million. But we're keeping our money stuck there. From $2.5 million is going down because we're spending money, so we are draining money. Now we don't have the money to even go forward, right? It's becoming more difficult, and there will be no project after a few years. Believe me, we will have to forget about it. So we have to do something solid now, so we can use this money wisely, and it will be fruitful. So I think we should have to make a decision that either we're going to get this project, we're not going to get this project. I think she's right. I'll take her side on this.
Yes, and what we have to all agree upon here is that one of the purposes of today's update is to hear those ideas and to come up with such ideas. And why not, now this is a legible approach or a suggestion to include more people on the committee. Why not? So the board would take back these suggestions and work on them. And this is one of the purposes, the Q&A. That's why even time-wise, the biggest portion of the meeting is dedicated towards Q&A, so that we can come up with suggestions which are valid and could be useful, inshallah.
And let me just clarify too, we're not saying that the original plan for on-site expansion was a mistake and now we've decided not to do it. That's not what we're saying at all. The purpose of what we're trying to get across tonight is simply to say that the original expansion plan, as I think was intimated by Dr. Iyad earlier, who asked, how long have we been raising money for expansion? Well, it's over 5 years. So we as a board are essentially trying to be realistic. And we want to share with you some realism to understand that the original expansion plan, as Sister Amina said, 6 million was the lowball estimate. It's probably going to be more like 8.5 or more. By the way, we went to 5 companies and asked them to give us estimates. We were expecting that at least a couple of them would give us estimates before today, but none of the 5 companies have given us an estimate yet. They blamed it on 4th of July. I don't know if that's true. But we're getting that number. So we will eventually be able to tell you some more hard figures for what it would cost for us to actually build the facility that we have designed and have 3D models and architect. The whole thing is done. If we had the money, we would break ground tomorrow. But we don't have the money, and we've been raising money for over 5 years. We're at roughly 2 million now on a project that is probably at least going to be 8.5. When we say donor fatigue, it doesn't mean that we're blaming the donors that, hey, you guys are tired, you don't want to donate. No. A better term would probably be donor capability. Donor capability has decreased because of COVID, and we saw that in the money that's coming in. We typically, during Laylatul Qadr, would get about 400,000. This year we got less than 200. We typically would have fundraising dinners every year and get about 400. We were only able to do virtual fundraising, and we got about 160. So we saw, and it's as expected, people are nervous, they don't know what's going to happen. Some people have lost their jobs, some people's business has gone down. And so the donations that were coming in were less than typical. So we don't know what's going to happen over the next few years and whether it's realistic for us to really think that we can raise $6 million over the next 2-3 years. Is that realistic? That's what has forced us to consider these other options. That's what we're coming to you. That's our strategy. Our strategy is to come to the community, not just individual donors, but everybody. Because this isn't only important to the donors, it's important to the entire community. Whether you donated $5 or you donated $50,000. We're coming to the community to say, guys, look, we really wish that we already had built that expansion. We wish that we could break ground tomorrow. We are as passionate about that project as anyone else. All of us have donated to that project. But we're coming to you to say, look, guys, we need to be realistic. Let's all together be realistic, and let's just open our minds and consider all the options and think about, okay, guys, we want to do that, but what's the plan B? We need to have a plan B. That's what this is all about. We are not coming to you to say that that's off the table. We're not coming to you to say that we've already decided we're going off-site. Not at all. We have not made any of those decisions. We're coming to you at the beginning stages of this process because we want to be transparent, and our strategy is to be transparent and to say to you as a community that, guys, we need to be realistic and we need to consider all the options. And together, we're going to make that decision. We're going to make the decision of what is possible, what can we do, what's feasible, and what's best for our community together. So that's where we are right now. So I don't want anyone to leave here thinking that this project that we originally designed is off the table. That's not the case at all. We're exploring other options because despite our passion and desire to fulfill that vision that the original builders had and that we've had for years as a community, despite that passion, we also recognize that we need to be realistic and that as a community, we need to really look at ourselves as a community and say, do we actually have the capability to do this or not? And if we don't, well then let's have a plan B. Let's try to accomplish the goals that this project would have accomplished in a different way. If our goal was to have a center to attract the youth and bring our Muslim youth together and help develop their identity and bring them to a safe space where they can meet each other and learn from each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, maybe it doesn't have to be right there. Maybe it can be down the road where it would be half as expensive to build it. That's what we're trying to explore together. So again, tonight is just to introduce the idea, to get you thinking, to see what ideas you may have. If the community comes back and says, no way, no how, it has to be right there, and we're willing to pay tomorrow, let's do it, that would be the best possible solution. But again, we have to be realistic. In this era of COVID, the fact that 5 years has gone by, we're still at 2 million on a project that's probably going to be 8.5, if not 10. As Sister Amina said, it may be 10. We don't know yet. We're waiting for those quotes to come in. So that's really why we're bringing this up tonight. And again, we're just at the very beginning of this process. We just wanted to let you know that we still would love to have this expansion project happen. We would love to have it happen. And if the community is committed to that happening, then we're committed to doing whatever it takes to make it happen. But at the same time, we want you to know that we're exploring other options, and it may turn out that one option may present itself as better than the original option. That may end up happening. For example, in Toledo, where I'm from, there's a center, Medina Center, they bought a piece of land, and they were planning to build a new center. And then there was a Bally's, Bally's Fitness, went out of business in Toledo. And they went and grabbed it, and they bought the building, already built. And it turned out to be a better option for them. And so even though they had bought the land and they had the architectural plan and they were going to build their center, Bally's went out of business, they got it super cheap, they bought it. So this is what we're trying to kind of get across, is that we're exploring options. We want to share that with you, let you know that we're exploring these options, because the worst thing I think from a strategy point of view would have been for us to come to you a year from now and say, hey guys, remember that expansion project that we were going to do? Well, that's not happening anymore. We bought a piece of land 10 miles down the road. We didn't want to do that to you. We want to make this decision together. I hope that makes sense.
And also, if I may add just one point to also clarify that during the discussions up to this point, it's not only the pricing and the cost that's driving this. That like some of the ideas some of the viewpoints that we have listened to regarding this topic of on-site versus off-site is not only the cost, because some of the technical experts have told us on the committee that it might at the end of the day be very, very comparable, the two prices of on-site and either it's here or off-site. But the difference would be in that the new building, if that ever happens, would have much more services than here, and considering the influx of the Muslims to the area now, so the community and the growth rate of our community. So each of the viewpoints, people who are really for the off-site option have other strong points for it, as much as we have strong points for the on-site. So it's just that we will be considering all, and also presenting to the community all these viewpoints to be able all together to choose one of them rather than the other.
Assalamu alaikum. I have one comment and one question. So one comment is, I serve in Sunrise Board, and we had similar situation 3 years back, whether to buy land and build a big school or buy a existing building. So we went with existing building. It cost us $1 million to buy the building and another 1.5 million to renovate, and its building will be ready by end of this year, inshallah. So existing building, it's much cheaper, and you can get it done sooner, right? My question is like, as sister said, right, I mean, building cost here versus in new location, probably it will be same, right, if you go with the new land. But my question is like, if you're exploring options for the offsite, what areas are you looking around? Is it's going to be like close to Noor Masjid, or it's going to be like Powell, Dublin, or have we identified those things? That's my question.
So as I said before, we're just starting that process, so we have not went that far. But the general idea would be something that would be close to around Noor, within like within 2 miles, 3 miles. I cannot say within what type of miles, but around Noor. That's the idea. But we're not there. We didn't start any of that process yet or research yet.
Assalamu alaikum.
You have a question?
But before you answer, I'm sorry, just let me add to this, because the other board members are shy apparently tonight, they don't answer. Obviously the closer to Masjid Nur, the better. But again, part of the process is keeping our minds open, because if something were to go on the market and we were to find maybe it's 10 minutes away, a little further than we want to be, but we can get a building that's already built and needs minimal renovation to achieve what we're trying to achieve, that could accelerate us achieving our goal by 2-3 years. Part of the passion that all of the parents who donated to the expansion project had is that they have kids, and they want their kids to have this place. And their kids are getting older, and they're seeing their kids getting older and going to college. Like my oldest is going to college now. He'll never take advantage of the expansion, which is unfortunate. And obviously, every year that goes by, that's more kids that are not getting to take advantage. So again, part of the realism for us is to say that if we're going to commit to this project here, and it's going to cost us, say, $8 million, is that going to take us another 2 years to raise? And then now you break ground and it takes you 2 years to build it? That's 4 years from now. If a Bally's goes out of business tomorrow and we can buy it and renovate it in 6 months, we just saved 3.5 years. So again, this is part of the reason why we're considering this. It's not purely a money issue. It's a strategy issue. To achieve the goals that the expansion project was meant to achieve, there isn't just one way to achieve that. So we need to have an open mind and consider those options. That's what's going on. Dr.
Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah khairan, everybody. It's a great discussion. Jazakumullah khairan for opening the floor for this discussion, and obviously very emotional for a lot of people, giving how much invested time and efforts and everything in this project. The community came with a mandate to the board before, overwhelmingly voted to expansion on site. So this has happened already multiple times actually. The last one in 2018, when we said we got approval of 28,000 square foot expansion. I'm not sure it came down a little bit now as a final numbers, but bottom line, you asked the community, would you vote to do expansion on site? And the community, 80% voted yes. So, and there was a one before that. I wasn't involved in it, but that's the last one in 2018. You are not fundraising. So this is a fact. In other words, what did we do in a leadership to fundraise in the past 2 years or 3 years even? And as you know, Ronnie, from our experience before, when we started fundraising for the last real efforts, I mean, we were talking about home fundraising, small events, door to door, right? I mean, this is something where, I think it's frustrating to me to hear back about going to ground, backward to the first discussions in 2010-12 when we talked about off-site, on-site, and 10 years later we're coming back to the same discussion again, where my kids were not going to benefit from either one as kids. But as a community, Razwan kids, I want them to come to masjid. Again, if you go to Unity Center in Detroit area, where we play basketball, then come pray Maghrib, go back and play, finish the game again. There is no problem with this. This is, again, the expansion is not about musalla, right? We have, alhamdulillah, good musalla, and it's not about musalla. It's really about activity center. So are we fundraising? No, we are not. When was the last time, we're doing real fundraising? Even the last two, Brother Arif is here, can answer for this. I mean, when was the last time we did an actual fundraising to say we are doing something? But the actual fundraising cannot be seasonal. This is not a seasonal thing. This is continuous effort to get the project going. Otherwise, we forget about it. Honestly, I do forget, it's really something that we have been talking about all the time. If we want it to happen, we can't say, oh, is the community, we are so worried. Would the community pay for this? Would the community already said we will pay for it. The community already said we want this to proceed. But we're not seeing an effort as a community member. I'm talking here about who actually happen to know everybody sitting, in front of me here, and I know everybody, and I love everyone. So I know the intention of community. We asked the community, said, do it on site. Let's get this done. We want this to happen. So to now talking about efforts of all options on the table. I mean, we want a plan B. I mean, if we want a plan A, you have to proceed with plan A. We're not doing anything with plan A, and now we want plan B and C and D. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yes, there is change. Things change. I agree with you. I mean, maybe our need, maybe instead of 22,000 square foot, it was 28. Now 22. Maybe it's 16,000 square foot. But again, the need of community activity center connected to our masjid, so our kids can spend time in the community center, being in the masjid, connected with that, growing up with that experience, which my kids may not have, but still I think the community as expanding community, we need this to attract more people to the masjid. Then we can raise more money for a masjid when they see their kids playing in the gym and you come to them and say, oh, we want, by the way, the gym needs more renovation. They're going to pay for it. Because we know what's happening here. It's our grandkids that I care about, right? I mean, our kids now going to college, for God's sake. So it's really the next generation. Sister Aimna, I don't think she will benefit from, anybody, expansion by her. Again, our kids are growing up now. But it's the need of community is not changing. The need of the community to have more kids, more young people coming to the masjid on a regular basis, being connected to the message, that did not change. Again, yes, we will, that the time of Aisha is coming. So I just wanted to make those quick comments. Yes, there is real support for this. And it's probably having in sight a date or something, a plan, and a concrete plan that's, okay, our hope, we're going to have this target. I mean, the target, you can put a target and it doesn't work, fine, but at least let's have something to say we have a target, for the project. Because right now it's just, we've been talking about that for years, and we're going nowhere. And now we're going backward, going about all options on the table. So I disagree with this notion. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan. Excellent comments, and I think we all feel the same way. I agree with you. I think we all feel the same way. But again, as a board, we have to be realistic. And what I mean by saying that is not that it's impossible, but that we have to think about not just the money that we have to raise to build the center, but that it's also going to almost double our overhead. And if we can barely raise enough money on an ongoing basis to meet our current expenses, then how are we going to raise another 6 million plus and then also double the amount of donations we get every year just to keep it operational? That's the challenge that we have. Now, maybe it's possible. I hope that it is. Part of the process, again, was to go back to the community and say, look, things have changed. The cost is going to be higher. People's capability to donate has gone down because of COVID. Can we still do this? If the resounding answer from the community is, yes, we can do it, we're committed, we want it to be there, we want to go with plan A, then we do it. It does make a difference. No, it makes a difference. I would disagree. I would honestly I would disagree because I was involved in all of that along the way. Because we have to think of operations. So in other words, so let me just clarify that when we do fundraising, we had to decide on an ongoing basis whether a fundraising dinner or a Laylatul Qadr or whatever was going to be for operations or whether it's going to be for expansion. I agree with you. Listen, I agree with you. But if we're not at least reaching our operational donations to pay our operations, how can we? But again, it goes to the capability of the community. If the community is not able to keep up with the operational cost of the masjid, and we're asking them, give us another $6 million, then we need to be realistic. As a community, we need to ask ourselves and be introspective. I'm not saying it's the board looking at the donors and saying, hey, you guys aren't donating enough. What I'm saying is that let's all of us get together and decide if we think this is feasible. Obviously, you think it is feasible. Okay, then I would disagree. Honestly, when the last year that I was on the board previously, my plan and the board had decided that our plan was to break ground right after Ramadan. No, we did. We said if we can get to that 40%, we're going to break ground after Ramadan. And our plan was that we're going to raise money during Laylatul Qadr. That's going to hopefully push us over the edge, and then we break ground after Ramadan. And then my term was done, and I was going to leave. And I was going to say, Alhamdulillah, we broke ground. I'm out of here.
Which is,
and we didn't do it. We didn't raise the money. We didn't get there.
I think this is very.
We tried our best. Our intention was there. We tried our best. We didn't get there. That's not fair to the fundraising committee. We have to break for Salat al-Isha. We have to break for Salat al-Isha. But honestly, that's not fair to the fundraising committee. The fundraising committee did a lot of work. Yes.
It's. Do we want to come after it?
Okay, I think we have to stop. Jazakumullahu khairan everyone for coming. Yes. جزاك الله خيرا. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. Can we make that done? Yes.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استووا سدوا الخلل بارك الله فيكم الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة رسول من الله يتلو صحفا مطهرة فيها كتب قيمة ما تفرق الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءتهم البينة وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وذلك دين القيمة إن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين في نار جهنم خالدين فيها أولئك هم شر البرية إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك هم خير البرية جزاؤهم عند ربهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه ذلك لمن خشي ربه الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر